We are back now to discuss another game on here on the Chip Shot Football Podcast. After a couple of great games, maybe this game wasn't the most entertaining high stakes game between the Bears and the New England Patriots, but I think it's still pretty fascinating on what we saw from this game and what we can take from it going forward because Caleb Williams in this game, he is now 0 for 2 this year when playing against quarterbacks from his draft class. He played Jaden Daniels and, the Hail Mary and things like that for the Bears to lose in that game. And now he plays Drake Maye, the third overall pick, and still he finds himself on the losing end of it. Him and the Chicago Bears obviously losing this game 19-3. The Patriots go to 3-7 now and are actually in third place in the AFC East after the Jets lose yesterday, and Chicago drops to 4-5 and lose their third straight game in a row. Now, offensively, this segment is mainly going to be about the Bears because they only managed 142 total yards on offense. They were 1 for 14 on third down, which is like awful, inexplicably bad. To be 1 of 14 is insane. Like, this game might as well have stopped at halftime. If we knew this game was going to be 1 for 14, if the Bears were going to be 1 for 14 on third down, you could have stopped the game at halftime because there was no way they would have won a game being 1 for 14 on third down. That's, of course, where you get the 3 points from and just the overall bad performance in general from the Bears. And it doesn't get any easier for them, unfortunately, because the next 6 out of their last 8 games are against the NFC North. They have, I guess by that math, all of their games against the NFC North still to play, and the rest of the NFC North is 21-6 at this point. So I can't imagine they're going to be favored in many, if any, of those games. So it's going to be a harsh second half of the year for the Bears ultimately. And now you look at the struggles on offense and you look at the struggles overall from this team. Not really so much on defense, but the offense, which everybody was talking about at the beginning of the season, including myself, how we thought they did everything perfectly. They got Keenan, they drafted Rome, they had DJ Moore, they brought in DeAndre Swift. That this offense, along with Caleb Williams, was of course going to take some time, but we never imagined it was going to be like this. And now someone has to be held responsible because of the outrage and the just the disappointment from the fan base overall. Someone has to be held accountable, and people are obviously looking at Matt Eberflus. He's now 14 of 29 in, or 14 and 29 in his tenure as the Bears head coach in about 2.5 years that he's been there. With Matt Eberflus, already there has been some doubts, but now he is probably a favorite to be fired this offseason, if not in the next couple weeks, realistically. If after this game they've lost to the Patriots, that can't sit too well with a bunch of fans that made themselves already get their hopes up this year that it was going to be different, but it's been too similar to what we've seen in the past with Mitchell Trubisky and the bad coaching, the bad combination of coaching and play calling, the lack of talent with Trubisky and Justin Fields, and now bringing in more talent, but still the offensive play caller might not be there. The head coach might not be the right guy. And if you do fire him, you're going to continue the cycle, right, with Mitch, with Justin, switching and constantly having the switching coaches and play callers. The lack of stability, it's rendering its head yet again, and it's not something you want to see because Caleb Williams, I still believe, is a generational talent, but you can't hide the fact that they're not helping him very much, if at all, with this team, with the play callers. And now, obviously, offensive coordinator Shane Waldron hasn't escaped criticism as well. Matt Eberflus mentioned after the game how they're going to consider everything, including changing the play calling duties and taking them away from Shane Waldron. He didn't mention it specifically, but he's included in there, obviously. And, yeah, I mean, offensively, this game wasn't great for the Bears. Like I mentioned, Caleb only threw for 120 yards. He was 16 of 30. He was sacked 9 times in this game, which it's not all on the offensive line. You might think it is when you're sacked 9 times, but Caleb has something to do with that. DeAndre Swift only had 60 rushing yards. Keenan Allen only 44 receiving yards, 5 receptions. DJ Moore had 3 receptions. He was targeted 6 times. Same thing with Roma Dunze. Just a very sloppy, inefficient day by the Bears, where the Patriots, on the other hand, not impeccable, but they did enough to win this game. I'll get more into the comparison in a little bit, but Drake May, he had 184 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. Ramondre Stevenson, 74 rushing yards, and the leading receiver was actually Austin Hooper with 64 yards, followed by Demario Davis and Keyshawn Boutte. And it's not like the Patriots are an exciting, Washington Commanders-esque team, right? They're very much a few steps behind the Commanders, to say the least, but they have a better plan than the Chicago Bears. All in all, they at least have a direction of where they're going, and for right now, the Bears don't seem to understand, really know what their short-term future is, going forward just this year, but also who the coach is going to be, the offensive play caller, are they going to retain Keenan Allen, things like that. Not the questions you already want to have just going into the second year with Caleb Williams. So the Patriots, much better, know that Drake slowly is going to get there. Maybe this season's not going to be great for them, but they have a clear plan of how they want it to go, and they're very much on track, but the Bears are very far from that, evidently. From starting off pretty decently, now have really had a bad taste of reality just set in here over the last couple weeks. And in this game, there's not really much to point out other than the fact that the 5 drives that the Bears had in the first half, only one ended in a field goal, and the rest of them, were just punts. The difference came towards the end of the first half, though, because it was still relatively close, but New England scored a touchdown and had a late field goal to go up 13-3, and then the second half included 7 punts between the both of them and 2 more field goals by New England. And Chicago not only scored only 3 points in the first half, but they scored no points in the second half. So as bad as the first half looked, it was arguably worse in the second half. So the score 19-3 doesn't really reflect how demoralizing this game really was. I'm sure almost all Bears fans must have turned this game off because of how painful it was to watch. And it's disappointing just from the standpoint that Chicago's defense is good. They're a very good very good defense, and a good part of this team, the best part of this team, actually. They've given up 19 points or less in all of their games except 2, against the Colts and against the Cardinals. Those are the only 2 games they've allowed more than 19 points. And we just talked about the Steelers and how they've only allowed around the same thing, only 19 or more points on a few occasions. And the Steelers are 7-2, where the Bears are struggling, obviously. The Steelers have a lot more of a veteran presence, obviously, but the defense for the Chicago Bears team is far from the problem. And we talked about the sacks, right? It was 9 sacks yesterday, but 6 sacks also against the Cardinals, who are not nowhere near like leading the NFL in sacks, but they managed to get to Caleb Williams 6 times, and now the Patriots get to him 9 times is absurd. And I think Caleb being included in the decision making, being indecisive, and I think just at times, like we saw at USC, all those ridiculous plays you see, like running back like 10 yards, 15 yards, and then running forwards again, and then throwing it like 40 yards down the field. It is a hard habit to shake, and you obviously don't want to waste a play, and you credit him for that, right? Not giving up on a play, but sometimes against, grown men playing this game for like, their livelihood and a job, they're not going to let you do that, and you're rather off better throwing the ball away than doing all of that too much. And still, the offensive play calling doesn't help him too much, and I question whether or not he 100% believes in the plays that they're calling, or he feels 100% comfortable in making some of these throws where you see the offense at times and nobody's, like, quite literally no one is open, or at least no one's open at the same time that Caleb drops back, gets into his progression, and is ready to throw the ball. Nobody's really open at times, or they are open, but Caleb misses them, and the whole timing and everything seems to be off with this team. And you can have that to an extent with a rookie, but it's gone too far back where Caleb actually looks like he's getting worse, and that's the last thing you want. And it's a reminder, I think, just overall with this game and what we saw from the Bears, that the coaching, the play calling, the development, all of that is the most important thing. And like we did on this show and like how everybody did, it's great to bring in those pieces. You need pieces like that, obviously, right? You need good players on a team, but all those pieces, all those tools really don't serve for anything, really, if the coaching, if the guy operating it all doesn't really have an idea of what he's doing. You look at just the comparisons with Drake Maye, like I said, it's not great. Drake May's working with less, arguably, than what Caleb Williams has been given, but he's been given the time to develop. They've had a clear plan of how to get the best out of him, how to enhance the things that he does well. And that's where you see Drake Maye looking a lot more comfortable out there, pretty much working very well within the offense, where Alex Van Pelt, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots, is doing a great job of that, obviously. And you look at Sean Payton, another rookie quarterback with Bo Nix, arguably, probably working with less than what the Chicago Bears are. Both great defenses, both of them have that. Courtland Sutton, Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, definitely more with what the Bears are working with. But Sean Payton, the play calling, his experience with quarterbacks and getting the best out of them, you see the difference with Bo Nix, who was the last quarterback selected in the first round, and Caleb Williams, who was the first. The difference is night and day, where Bo just went toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, almost won that game, and he made some big-time throws and is really operating and feeling comfortable in that offense, where Caleb, not so much. And, you look at the difference. Alex Van Pelt has a clear plan of what he's doing with Drake Maye. Sean Payton, obviously, with all his experience and being a great, revered coach in the NFL. The Bears, no shade to Matt Eberflus. He's great at defense and things like that. But Shane Waldron and Matt Eberflus aren't really doing it justice on the offensive side of the ball, which is really hurting this Bears team. So they were an exciting team. I was really excited to see them in the offseason, but it's all really unraveled in a pretty negative way. But I'm still holding out optimism over them. I'm not saying Caleb's a bust or anything like that. It's too early to say that. But unfortunately, it feels like they're going to have to not restart the whole thing, but, bring in a new coach, offensive play caller, more centered around the offense. And, it's going to take some more time right now for Caleb Williams, because he's going to have to learn a whole new offense and things like that. So it's going to take some more time, unfortunately, but I think it's a step that the Bears need to admit now at this point in the year, where the playoffs look like a long shot. All that excitement and optimism has kind of died down, so they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and maybe, I don't know, find like a Ben Johnson or something like that, or a Ben Slowick from the Texans, and have him be their head coach. But yeah, I mean, it's been a hard season for the Bears, and hopefully they can get it turned around. But that's all of the action from Sunday. We're going to touch on more of those games tomorrow. And right now we're going to get to our last segment and preview the game on Monday Night Football that is set to start in less than an hour here between the Dolphins and the Los Angeles Rams. We'll be right back with the preview to Monday Night Football after this break.